2025 team previews, Denver Broncos. This is the 10th team preview so far. My goal is to do all 32 teams before the first official game of the season starts. If you found any of these videos helpful, informative, entertaining, and would consider giving this video a like, share, comment, I'd really appreciate it. I put a lot of effort into these videos, and because I'm not really good with video editing, it takes up a ton of time on each video to the point where I'm not even really betting right now. I can sit down and talk about every team for like 20 minutes, but it's the graphics and visuals that are time consuming for me. And, I'm a one-man show here and have a newfound respect for anyone who's doing content and that's consistent with it. There's a ton of people doing NFL content right now. And of course I'm biased and think what I'm doing is the best, even though my middle school video editing ability holds me back. I just watched a YouTube video someone did on the Denver Broncos, and the graphics and edits were just unreal. But something I always notice, and it's like a reoccurring theme with sports betting related content, and I might even be guilty of this to some extent myself, but it has to do with like selection bias. And what I mean by this is when you have a team you like, it's like forcing a narrative to support it rather than being like subjective. Like in this Broncos video I watched, I don't even know who the creator was. It's not someone I follow. The guy was a Broncos fan. He talked about how Denver just went 1-6 in one-score games last year, which is true. And he was making a case for Denver being better this year and more likely to win more one-score games because teams who lose a lot of close games, typically that next year there's positive regression. In other words, they'll win more one-score games, which is also true in theory. But it's important to investigate these things and dig deeper. 3 out of Denver's 6 losses in those one-score games weren't actually close games. Denver was down double digits versus Seattle, Pittsburgh, and the Chargers, but managed to score meaningless points in the final 2 minutes of each game to turn them into one-score games. That's much different than like 2 teams that both have a good chance to win the game in the fourth quarter, but one team gets lucky with like a big play or a random turnover or a big call from the refs, and that results in the win. That type of variance will even out over time. But someone who's making a case for liking the Broncos don't want to hear that. Doesn't fit that narrative. And I bring that up because the video I watched in general was about how Denver should have been better. But I disagree there. I mean, Denver was a team that was listed with a win total of 5.5, and they basically doubled it up with 10 wins. Before last season started, they were plus 700 odds to make the playoffs. Last season was supposed to be like a rebuild year, part of the post-Russell Wilson era, but they made a huge leap. They found their future quarterback, and they look like a legit playoff contender now. Obviously, Denver overachieved expectations in every way, but overall, the Broncos were a very fortunate team last year. They got a lot of red zone penalties that went their way. They finished top 7 on both sides of the ball in red zone touchdown percentage. They avoided the injury bug, too. 6th fewest AGL, which is adjusted games lost due to injury. They also faced backup quarterbacks 30% of total snaps. That's 7th most in the league. And, although the Denver defense was elite, regardless of who the quarterback was, they did struggle against good teams. They went just 1-6 straight up and 2-5 against the spread versus playoff teams. I don't count the final game of the season versus Kansas City because they sat everyone. But again, for someone who's making a case for Denver, technically they can add that win versus KC's backups. This year, I have the Broncos playing a schedule of opponents that's almost exactly league average, 0.05 points to be exact, below league average. But their defense will face a ton of the league's best quarterbacks. Of the league's top 10 best quarterbacks, Broncos are going to play 9 of them. It's the 3rd toughest schedule of opposing quarterbacks. Last year, they faced the 7th easiest schedule of opposing quarterbacks. So Denver's number 1 rated pass defense will be tested this year, and we'll know if it's the real deal or not for sure. Denver has a relatively soft front half of their schedule. I have them favored in 7 of their first 10 games. I really like Denver week 1. It's a week 1 bet that I would probably make right now. I haven't done it yet, but it's their home opener versus a rookie quarterback making his first road start in Mile High altitude, likely heat against an elite defense that somehow even got better. The Broncos' last 10 week 1 home games, they're 7-2-1 against the spread. Teams struggle in Denver early in the season. And Denver dominated their home schedule last season, going 6-2 straight up and against the spread. The Broncos have done a really good job building out this roster. I feel like it wasn't like too long ago this team was in shambles, and now it's one of the deepest, most well-rounded teams in the league. Not only did they find their guy at quarterback, but heading into last season, there was a major concern surrounding their offensive line, but the offensive line ended up grading out as the number 1 pass block unit in the league by Pro Football Focus. And they just continue to fill voids. Last season, they had one of, if not the weakest tight end groups in the league. They didn't have a single tight end catch more than 19 passes, so they went and signed veteran tight end Evan Ingram. The running back room's interesting. No clue how Sean Payton is going to juggle it. J.K. Dobbins has the biggest name recognition, but from ability and talent, not sure who emerges there. They added a rookie second-round draft pick, running back R.J. Harvey from Central Florida, who's going to battle carries with Jaleel McLaughlin and second-year man Audric Estem. But everyone on the offense is just like second class to the defense. This team's all about defense. And based on EPA, which stands for expected points added, most consider this like the most complete metric in football. The Denver defense finished number one overall, and in large part to their pass defense that was just completely shut down. So Denver didn't really have to do much this offseason with the defense, you'd think, right? That ended up being their priority, oddly enough. Their first pick in the draft, they went with slot cornerback from Texas, Jahdae Barron. Their top free agent signing, Taluna Hufanga from the Niners, a safety who lays the lumber. He's been injured a ton recently, but when he's healthy, he's a top 5 safety in the league. They also grabbed another 49er, Dre Greenlaw, who's working his way back from an Achilles. It's a loaded defense. But they aren't sneaking up on anyone now. This is a team that's like priced like a legit playoff team. Win total of 9.5. That's 3 wins higher than last season. I have them expected to win around 9 games, sheeted towards the under a little bit. Even though they'll probably have the league's best defense this year, it's going to be a real test against the league's best quarterbacks. And I'm not really sold on Bo Nix, to be honest. And I think the sophomore blues kind of hit him hard. Opposing defenses have more film on him now, and they know his tendencies more. Rookies benefit somewhat from opposing defenses not having much film on them in like a pro-style offense. And that's not why we see like a lot of backups sometimes come in and have success, because the opposing defenses don't really have like prep film on them. So rookies are kind of the same. And, I think Sean Payton like maxed out his, Nix's abilities and kind of, tailored the offense around his strengths. But even with the number one defense, Bo Nix is going to need to do more than just, take care of the ball and not make mistakes. So this isn't an offense that's loaded with skill position depth either. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if Denver wins 10 games and makes the playoffs, but that's basically where they're priced. So I don't really see an edge here. Going to stop here. Next up, we got the Detroit Lions. Look out for that one. And until next time, good luck with your bets.